All right, Darwin's hamster. I appreciate your response. As always, you're keeping me honest, or you're at least bringing up all of the points that need to be responded to, that need to be um, commented on if anything that I'm saying is supposed to be uh, meaningful or more than just art, more than just more than just a show, more of an enacting of um, an actual change in the people. Um, First of all, I don't want to secede, and I don't think anybody should do that. I think the last 30 years, America has really started to pay attention to environmental issues, um, and that was largely a result of what happened in the 60s, and the resurgence of all these Eastern religions in America somehow, right along with all the psychedelic drugs and the Vietnam War and uh, it was like it was almost like a tremor in the development of human consciousness um, before the earthquake, which might be happening now, or maybe we're just another tremor. I don't know, but yeah, we shouldn't secede. I think I talk about retribalization, but retribalization is more of there's two sides to it. First of all, there's um, a progression of technology because technology is very important, especially communicative technologies. Um, because the more we communicate, the more intelligent we get. We're used to thinking of intelligence as a personal thing, but you know, if there's one thing that's genuinely true about postmodernism, it's that knowledge is a relative thing, and for you to be a smart person implies that you somehow have knowledge of something objective, and you're objectively smart. And I don't understand why people talk that way because some people have larger vocabularies than others. Some people are more well versed in a particular topic than others. But is there really this baseline to measure the general ability of people to think about truth? Because there's so many ways of interpreting truth and so many ways of expressing truth. But I think I'm getting off topic. So retribalization, geographically, it's a more of a communal sort of thing, and in that sense, it's a redistribution of some kind of a wealth. But I'm not in favor of a communist system at all. For me, um, I like a monopoly system better, and I don't mean a corporate monopoly because that's what the democracy that we have is. It's a democracy of corporations, of corporate uh, persons. I think a democracy should be more like the board game Monopoly, where every individual person has certain inalienable rights, and at the beginning of the game, they all start off at the same level. That's a metaphor. What does it mean in actual application? Well, it means education-wise. There's all this talk now about how the federal government is trying to mandate certain standards that schools have to achieve. But really all they're doing, because they're emphasizing this test so much, this one test, the standardized test that they give once a year, because they emphasize that so much, all the students are learning is how to take that test. They are becoming the standard. They're not meeting a standard. They are becoming a standard. It's like they're being taught to recite this dry, abstract, multiple choice understanding of human science and history and literature, and that can't. If that's the way we're going to treat education, then democracy isn't fair because democracy requires that people have been raised and acculturated and taught to use a language efficiently and effectively, and that they can read and they can understand complex ideas. And if we don't, every person is capable of that. If you have a human being and you have such a big brain, you should be capable of this higher level thought. You just have to be taught how to do it. It has to be nurtured. If you don't nurture it, you're gonna, of course, the child's gonna grow up to be not as bright as they could have been. as far as technology goes, we don't need to get rid of technology. And technology, the way we have developed it, but the way the Industrial Revolution thus far has progressed, is not the only possibility for technology. The Industrial Revolution was um, a very rushed and wild and shoddy leap into the potentialities of technology. It was a very, we were still like 100 years before we started to build the first steam engines. We were, you know, the highest level of engineering was like blacksmith making swords and shields. So it's, within a few hundred years, we made such a leap, and we landed on the moon. That's quite a technology. But what has it done to better the general well-being and the happiness, the quality of life? I mean, you said people in New Orleans have a better quality of life than most kings ever had. Um, and you're right on a material level, but like I said, like that's a material level. And if I mean, it's true that we need food and shelter, and that most people in America, even though we have a pretty large homeless population, honestly, but most people in America have food and shelter. Usually, maybe they don't have adequate health care, and it's not like they live a good life. I would say it's a good life compared to what they could get if nobody else would have to suffer at all, really, for these people to be fairly um, distributed among uh, the national monetary system. So no, I'm jumping around here, but as far as like being nostalgic about the glory of the past, and about just being romantic about how uncivilized man was living in the Garden of Eden and all that, um, that we should really just wise up and face up to the fact that human history is about war, and it's not going to go away. But I think history itself is, we should, okay, first of all, we shouldn't, I don't think we should go back to the past and just try to regress, because we can't do that. We've already, outgrown that. It's like we couldn't, fit into a shoe from when we were 5 years old. The same kind of thing. You can't slide back into a way of thinking that you left 5,000 years ago. Um, but that doesn't mean you can't become more aware of what it was, because we have so much archaeological understanding now of early peoples, and how they saw the world. Because I think what we're really realizing is that we, as human beings, still have access to these early forms of culture and of human thought and understanding. All of that, we've definitely moved beyond it, but we still retain like this psychic tether that goes back into time, like this collective unconscious that this the same archetype since the beginning of time. Maybe the first symbol was some kind of symbol for death, because the human being just, when they woke up and realized that they were here, they realized they will one day not be here at the same moment, and that may have been the first sort of epiphany that led to the first symbol of, the first archetype, the first religious experience. And so the first people's response to death, to the realization of death, the way they thought of it is still present in us today, because we're going to die, and we are still faced with that same question, and we don't have a better answer for it than they gave us. So, we're still using the same basic support structure for our state of consciousness. I wanted to go through like a point-by-point response, and I'm going to have to post another video to do that. It'll be a lot shorter than this one, though, so it'll be up in a few minutes.